1 week from today, I am going to be having surgery. But by the time you see this video, my surgery will have already happened. And that's because I very specifically did not want to tell anybody about this surgery until after the fact, because some people see it as being a little controversial. The surgery I'm going to be having is called a bilateral salpingectomy, or a bisalp for short. And basically what it means is I am having my fallopian tubes removed. Not tied, removed. This is a form of medical sterilization, and it is an elective surgery. So I'm having this surgery not because I need it, but because I want it. This is not something that I have really spoken about on social media because it's not something that I wanted other people's opinions on, because it is my body and my choice. But I am 100% certain that I do not want children. To be clear, I don't hate kids. I think they're great. They're just not for me. This is something I've been considering for at least a decade, if not more, and I'm absolutely certain that it's what I want to do. The reason why I want to talk about it now is because I want to talk about why I'm having it done right now. If any of this seems like TMI to you, just don't watch it. But this is my story, and I'm going to share it the way I want to. But I'm going to be talking a lot about reproductive health, about my period, and about everything that goes along with that. I'm also planning on making several follow-up videos, so if you have any questions about any of this, feel free to ask me. That's part of the reason why I want to share this. But back to the reason why I'm doing this now. So, about 5 years ago, I had an IUD placed. And thinking about it for a minute, I think I can safely say that that experience was the most traumatic medical experience I have ever had. This was during the time where I was required to wear a mask when I was in the room. My partner was not allowed in the room with me because everyone was very concerned about COVID at the time. And I also had a gynecologist who, to be absolutely blunt, was just not a good doctor. She was one of the doctors that told me that it would probably just feel like a little pinch and that all I had to do was take some ibuprofen beforehand and I would be fine. That was not the case. So in the room with me during my IUD insertion, which was done in office, there was me, my doctor's nurse, and an ultrasound tech. And I want to say that what they did was an intravaginal ultrasound, but I could be wrong on that, so don't quote me. But basically it was just to assist in placing the IUD. When she started attempting to place the IUD, I was very quickly in a lot of pain. Like so much pain that I almost instantly went into a panic attack. But I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and once I've started something, I am not going to back out unless I feel like my health is in danger. And everybody was acting like this was totally normal. So apparently part of the problem is that my uterus is tilted, so that makes it a little bit more difficult. But the process of inserting my IUD took about 45 minutes. And during those 45 minutes, I was in so much pain that I was going back and forth from feeling like I was either going to throw up or pass out. Thankfully, I did neither. And then after probably like 10 to 15 minutes of being in that terrible, terrible pain, it eased up out of nowhere. And for a few minutes, it was fine. And then all the pain came back in one big wave. And I kept getting waves of pain like that. So I'd be okay for a couple of minutes and then like intense, intense pain. And with the way that everything was timed, at some point, I asked my gynecologist if what I was experiencing were contractions. And she said yes. I was in so much pain that I was literally having contractions like I was giving birth. And there were a few times where my gynecologist asked if I wanted to stop. And I said no, because I knew that if I stopped, I would never do that process again. And I just wanted to get it over with. And I did want the IUD inserted, so that's just what I did. So at the end, when it was actually inserted, my gynecologist and the nurse were basically like, okay, you're done, it's in, bye, and left the room. So it was me and the ultrasound tech who were left. And the ultrasound tech was the only person in that room who seemed like she gave any kind of a fuck about me. Like while I was in pain during the procedure, she was the only one that asked if I wanted a glass of water. She held my hand. And then when everything was done, I needed to sit in that room for like another 15 to 30 minutes or so before I felt okay enough to stand up and leave. And while my gynecologist and the nurse just dipped right out of there, the ultrasound tech stayed with me the entire time. She's the only person who comforted me, and she was the only person that made me feel better. Thankfully, once my IUD was inserted, I didn't have any other issues. And I've had the IUD for the last few years without any other complications. So that's a plus side. And aside from the IUD insertion being incredibly traumatic, I've always had it in the back of my mind that once I have to have my IUD swapped out, I needed to advocate for myself for pain management better, because what I went through, it is very common for doctors to downplay the pain It is very common for doctors to not believe women when they're in pain, especially with a specific procedure, but not limited to only this specific procedure. And only recently was it updated in terms of like medical science that yes, clamping onto a woman's cervix with a pointy tool hurts, and women should be given pain management options for it, aside from just taking some ibuprofen. But needless to say, that gynecologist is no longer my gynecologist. My gynecologist now is like the exact opposite. Like it is night and day difference. I told her when I saw her last year that I probably wanted to have my tubes tied. She said I had at least another year on the IUD, so I should probably wait. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not having any issues with it. So that was fine. This year, the world has shifted a bit, and so has my perspective on things. Whereas before, I probably would have been fine having my IUD replaced when it was time to have my IUD replaced, so long as I was either under anesthesia or had a cervical block, because that's what they actually recommend now for pain management. But with the way the world is going, and knowing for a fact that I do not want children, and knowing for a fact that I don't want someone else making that decision for me, I wanted to have more control over my bodily autonomy. I also don't know what healthcare is going to be like, and I don't know how much more expensive this procedure will be by this time next year. So I'm trying to get it done while I can, while there's still time. So I talked to my current gynecologist about my options. I told her that I wanted to get my tubes tied, and she was actually the one that suggested a bisalp. First of all, because it is a permanent sterilization option, but secondly, because apparently a bilateral salpingectomy significantly decreases your chances of contracting ovarian cancer. So since those are body parts that I don't really have a use for, and I don't want them to develop cancer, that sounded like a great option to me. But fun fact that she also told me that I was not aware of: having your fallopian tubes removed does not stop your period. So she had warned me that if I have a bisalp, yes, I will be sterile. I'm not going to be able to have children. However, she said my period would come back, and I quote, with a vengeance, which I was very willing to just go ahead and do that. But after she told me that, she said that while I'm under having the bisalp performed, which is laparoscopic, by the way, so minor surgery, outpatient, not super invasive, she could swap out my IUD and put a new one in. That way, not only can I not be pregnant, I'm also going to continue not having a period. Win-win. She suggested that. And she also suggested that without any kind of pushback. She didn't need my husband's permission. She didn't need me to sign a form saying I'm not going to sue her if I change my mind. And she didn't try to lecture me about my choices. She listened to me and she gave me options that she felt would be right for me. So she is the one who is going to be performing the surgery. And like I said, by the time y'all see this video, it will already be done. So if you have a problem with me getting this surgery, I don't care. I do not care what your opinion is on my body and my choice for what I want to do with my body. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because I think that my story is an important one to tell right now. Because I know that I am not the only person out there who not only does not want children, but who may be exploring options to make sure they don't have children. In terms of insurance, I do have medical insurance, like one of the bronze plans or whatever. Because as a content creator, I'm an independent contractor. I don't have insurance through work. I pay for it myself. And yes, it is expensive. My insurance technically does cover the procedure. However, I am still going to owe about $6,200 out of pocket. Can I afford that right now? No, but I talked to them about it beforehand and they said that they can put me on a payment plan and that is worth it to me. But if you're really kind and you want to help me pay my medical bills, you can find ways to do that on my website. If you have any questions for me about what this process is like, feel free to ask so long as you're being respectful, and I would be happy to answer. At the moment, a week out from surgery, I am feeling pretty anxious, especially because this is the first surgery I will ever have in my life. It's going to be my first time being intubated, my first time under anesthesia, my first time having a catheter, and I'm not super looking forward to all of that, but it's going to be worth it in the end. My anxiety about the situation is far outweighed by my desire to have this done. But that's not to say that it's not scary. So if you want to know anything else about the procedure, about what my experience is like with it, feel free to ask so long as you're being respectful. And I hope that by me documenting my journey with this, I can help give people more information on what this process is actually like, especially if you're somebody who's considering having it done themselves. And despite the fact that I am pretty anxious about everything, I can say that having a very good doctor and having a very supportive and amazing partner who took a week off work to help take care of me after the surgery without me even having to ask him have helped ease my mind a ton. See you on the other side.